His Excellency, the former Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, is someone who, over the years, has been able to demonstrate that he's a consensus builder and he knows how to build teams. And if you imagine the immediate next steps after they have created that coalition around the PDP and a couple of other parties, I'm being careful with the numbers now because we don't know how many of them are in and how many are really saying they're out. But what matters is that there's a coalition going on and there are a lot of parties there, about 37 or so I'm told. And, you know, that will require someone who knows how to work with a big team. That will require someone who knows how to work with everybody on board and take the best opinions and the best ideas. And that will require someone who understands how democratic institutions, political parties especially, are created. That will require someone who has experience of how to put a big movement behind an idea and get the idea now to be able to see the light of the day. So I think that all of the things around political parties building and getting the movement to be able to create power and get government at His Excellency Atiku Abubakar is home most than any other person. Recall that in 1992-93, he was part of the movement that created the SDP and eventually tried to be presidential candidate, came third at that Just Convention. Remember that the G34 that eventually metamorphosed into the PDP, Atiku Abubakar was perhaps one of the biggest and one of the strong players there. If you count 1, 2, 3, before you get to 5, you'll have to put him in the mix of those that created what is now the PDP. And if you remember that, in spite of being a member of the PDP, one of the people that have always fought for the deepening and the expansion of democratic space is also Atiku. And when you take his political journey and you see the kinds of things he's been standing for, you will understand that he has been someone who believes that bigger ideas, more people on board, consensus building, and accommodation of diverse opinion is what he represents. So I kind of think that he's one of the most prepared for the next steps that will come out from this grand coalition, which is obviously a referendum on how politicians and political parties see the APC and the presidency that is running the country right now.
All right, be that as it may, if your principal does not get the presidential ticket from PDP and company, would he move to another party as it did earlier before?
You've asked, but what I would say to that is that I think he will get the ticket. He's more than likely going to get the ticket. He's the front runner in that game. He's not being arrogant or anything like that, but there is a certain person that fits the bill part-time. It's a no-brainer that anybody that wants to be president or wants to drive the opposition movement to challenge for power now has to be someone that has brand identity. People must be able to identify him and connect with him. Has to be someone who has proven experience and integrity around creating visions, populating vision, getting people to file behind it. And obviously his activities in the past has demonstrated that. Has to be someone who understands precisely how to build teams. And if you look at what he has done around with his life, you'll know he knows how to build teams. Has to be someone that connects with the diverse sections of our country, and every part can take ownership of him. When you look at the country today, there's probably no other politician in Nigeria that can be at home in the Southwest, at home in the Southeast, at home in the South-South, and obviously at home in the North. So we would just say that what's in front of us right now is to, first of all, try and get the ticket and get over the hurdles of the primary. And we will cross the hurdle of the primary safely and significantly in such a way that we can fly the ticket. But I must also say very, very quickly that we have taken the position that Nigeria needs an Atiku now. And we will ensure that whatever happens, Atiku Abubakar puts in all of his cards, lays it on the table, reaches out to everybody, and get the ticket. And once we get in the ticket, we'll go and challenge for power. And by the grace of God, and I think with what we are getting on the field, it's looking like nobody should worry about ticket. Atiku will be on the ballot, and he will be on the ballot for PDP, and more than likely, he will be the one to win the election, or at least marshal the activities towards the election for the PDP.
Oh, yeah, very good. You sound very optimistic there, and I don't blame you. But then again, this consensus proposal, if adopted, do you think it would be fair to other high-profile contestants? And will it create problems later for the coalition, as it were?
The reason why the coalition in the first instance is gravitating towards the PDP is because they have seen that of the two political parties that are big and maybe having structures all over, one is a bit more inclusive, one is a bit more democratic. The processes that get people to play in the political party, one is more transparent. People can majorly predict that one is owned by all Nigerians and there's space for everybody to try to play their politics, whereas the other one is just a fiefdom of a few friends of the people that are the leaders of that party. Therefore, Democrats are beginning to feel that they're better off in a democratic space and a party that has democratic credential. All that is required for us to be able to have this kind of consensus candidate that all of them can back together is for the processes by which the candidate will emerge to be clear, to be transparent, to be fair, to be all-inclusive. If we're able to figure out a way to get everybody to see that the most transparent primaries have taken place that allows them to be able to come up with that consensus, or the most transparent decision-taking process has been put in place to allow the person that is going to emerge honestly and transparently and fairly, then I think the chances are fairer that others will stay in there. In any case, what politicians and political players look for in political arrangement, more than anything else, is the ability to have inclusion and to be carried along. And if there's anyone who has demonstrated over the years that he has the ability to carry people along, to make people comfortable, to give people the opportunity to have their opinions met and to also have their views, taken into consideration when decision making is taken, and to also ensure that the space is big enough for everybody to feel a part of a big movement, ATIKU is a sure bet, and obviously everybody will be counting on him. I even suspect that one of the reasons why there's a new fillip and a new gusto and a new energy around the PDP and around people who are now gravitating towards the PDP, it couldn't have been unconnected with the fact that Atiku Abubakar was able to come in there and begin to show leadership with the way he's going. And if you look at him, he's been crisscrossing all the groups, he's been speaking to all the stakeholders, he's been visiting the states, he's been visiting governors, he's been visiting the women groups, he's been visiting the generality of Nigerians, he's been speaking on the issues, he's been making himself available, he's been presenting himself anew, he's been crafting good ideas, he's been bringing an agenda that everybody can connect with. The agenda is simple and it resonates with all Nigerians. Atiku believes that with our population, we need to be creating jobs in a more significant manner by creating the enabling environment for private sector to create jobs. And the person that can do that is someone who has created jobs before or who creates jobs all the time. As at the last count, he's got about 50 to 60,000 people on his payroll working in companies that he has interest in, and about 260, 270 million people from indirect work. Therefore, he knows how to do that. We know that right now in Nigeria, we need to figure out another way around our security issues. And if anybody had been very heavy on restructuring, on the need for us to come together as a people and review how we govern ourselves and our structures of government, Atiku has been on this agenda for close to 12 years. So you know that this is someone who is able to put in the long-term work for a long-term vision. And if you look at our country now, you know that we're very, very divided. We need somebody that can pull us together and make us Nigeria again. We need a leader that is at home in the Southeast, at home in the South-South, loved in the Southwest, extremely idolized and loved in the North, and generally accepted across the length and breadth of Nigeria. And obviously by what he has done with his life and the way he has been positioned over the years, he has good relationship he can leverage on. And then we also need somebody that has experience. This is not the time when Nigerians can begin to, test new ideas that are not working. The fourth industrial revolution is a very, very fast revolution. It's a very unforgiving revolution. The country needs to leapfrog and begin to match up other nations in the world. And you need a man of vision. You need a man that is very heavy on intellectual appreciation and consumption of new ideas. Somebody who listens, who is a good listener. Somebody who is a Democrat and doesn't want to be a bully in the room. That's the kind of person you need now. And obviously that's the kind of person that Atiku Abubakar is. So I think that everything is beginning to signpost that 2019 is going to be a straight referendum between the tendencies that President Buhari represents and the tendencies that the Democrat futuristic vision of Atiku Abubakar represents. And by the grace of God, I think Nigerians are beginning to catch up to it. No nation can tolerate the level of things that's going on in the country now. You can't wake up every day to obituaries, not because people died in their sleep, no, not because they died of health issues, not because the country is at war, but just because the whole totality and the grand norm of the rules and regulations and the responsibility of government has broken down. They cannot provide security of lives and property. People are dying everywhere. We can't have that. You can't have a nation where people are more miserable than they've always been. The last benchmark from the international organization says that Nigeria now is miserably poorer than India, and that's something for us to worry about. And also, we also know for ourselves that Transparency International, who's supposed to be doing the benchmarking for countries, says that this country is now more corrupt. Just a couple of days ago, we saw something from the United Nations indicating that we're not getting it right, and therefore we need a new vision, and we need a man that can drive vision that is inclusive, a vision that allows all Nigerians to find themselves within the vision, and somebody that can mentor and plan succession for the younger generation so that the nation can be handed over to young men that can take the nation to the next level.
Segun, if you can hear me, you've said a lot, but let's be realistic about this. PDP's coalition, is it just about removing President Buhari from power? Do you actually have any agenda at all for the electorate, whom you will be seeking their mandate?
Listen, it's an unfortunate pigeonholing of how coalitions come about by people thinking that maybe the coalition is to get Buhari, just to get Buhari out of power. Of course, you have to get Buhari out of power to get somebody else to be in charge so that you can drive the country forward. But that's not the only thing. Why do they want to get Buhari out of power is the issue that needs to be examined. Everybody in the country knows that we've never had it this bad. The economy is obviously not working. Businesses are closing down. We've known that we've never had a security situation at this level. We could understand when we were dealing with terrorism. That's something that nations in the world also sometimes go through. England went through it, other countries go. But when you're dealing with clashes within headsmen and farmers, when you're dealing with issues where you can't even tell when the next orgy of violence is going to take place, when we are becoming a nation that is brutish, life is short, and people don't even know whether they can make it from the next day to the next day, when Nigerians are no longer able to sleep well, when they are now more miserable, when by all indicators they are now poorer than the other nations of the world, obviously you need to, in a democracy, you need to figure out how to get sure that a party is ready to be able to challenge for power. The alternative would have been, if we were not in a democracy, then obviously that would have been requiring different strategy. But right now in a democracy, the advantage is that every 4 years, according to our own styling, we have an opportunity to come and review, to recalibrate, to come together again, to prepare the ground for Nigerians, to be able to present them with alternative opinions. And obviously, I've told you, Nigeria, the coalition is looking at how to get Nigeria working again. And like you heard from them, most of the speakers, is how to rescue Nigeria from the doldrum and pull it back from the point of almost getting over the cliff and shattering into pieces. So it's not really about just getting Buhari out of the way, although that has to happen so that new ideas and fresher ideas and new energy and vibrancy can come into the country again. But significantly, it is to strengthen the political hand of the opposition to be able to achieve this objective. Rather than have them all go into the place as a splintered group, everybody's scampering and looking for what is not there. It's better that they then come together, do an internal introspection among themselves, evaluate the candidates jointly,